A lot of talk about the war, the latest part of it anyway. Could have been called the Campaign of Cliches. Here's one. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Or how about, we won, but at a terrible cost? What started this go around of it was the Umbra and bad ideas. The Umbra descended in the early spring, a terrible boiling red sky. The wizards tried to explain it like it was a cloud in space, just drifted into us. It engulfed us, turned our night into day, and made the daylight a time of nightmares. We were doing okay here in the Raspberry Kingdoms. Enough strong warriors to clean up the mutations. We had fish. That was a big difference. We could feed our people. There was order in the kingdoms, except on that border with Ludwin when all those starving souls came looking for help. Terrible thing, turning away the desperate. We never depended much on magic, so when it all went haywire, we were still okay. But that's what gave the generals the idea. They figured the Aboleths depended on magic, so we could weaken them. They figured they would be forced to defend their claims if we sailed out to challenge them. We could finally go out and gain fair use of those seas. We could be free. It only took 3 months to raise a fleet. Every ship we owned or could borrow, buy, maybe even stole some. From the merchant crawlers and shallow water fishing sloops to the undeterrable, that beauty of a war galley the last council wasted all of our taxes on. Everything got armed up, giant mounted crossbows, torsion engines, mithril-tipped harpoons on blood iron chains. They even had me convinced that we were ready. We won, technically. Killed that one called Sargasso Trivecta or something like that. Whisperer of the Depths. I mean, it's a victory, right? Like when those southern orcs kill a hero at the loss of 100 swordsmen. Great victory. Killed that elder Sargossa and 3 younger ones at the cost of 60 ships. The mighty undeterrable, she got deterred right off. The crew went mad, and the rudder turned it hard over. She slammed right into the easy money and 4 big fishers before things ever really got started. She started taking on water herself. That's what the Aboleths do. They take mines. The Umber didn't stop that. The damn crew of the Maxwell set their own ship on fire. But we got that elder, though. Yeah, we won. Long live the wretched orcs of the Raspberry Kingdoms. When the sages and bards talk about aboleths, they are usually talking about an individual or a small family unit. They might rule over sea elves or Sahajin. Perhaps they maintain a retinue of giant octopi or killer whales. I don't want to play them down. Defeating an aboleth is a great victory for any adventuring team. They make great end bosses, as their demise can change an entire region for the better. But imagine not just a family, but a nation of aboleths. Over 1,000 years ago, as the world of Pelakar suffered through its last dark age, the gods were silent, floating incoherently in the mists of the collective unconscious. There was no divine will to assert. The Velito of the world descended into primitivism, along with the lesser civilized species. This is a time when the great monsters of the world reigned supreme. In the cold oceans of the northern continent of Marikoth, the community of ancient evils came together. A pair of Leviathan, the Mara, families of aquatic-dwelling black dragons, and the Aboleth. Over the centuries, as the cities of man and elf weathered away, the politics of evil began to crack the community. But the Aboleth remained. 27 elders and over 1,000 of their descendants, all living in lawful harmony. The war with man started over 1,000 years ago. It was the Nancy Brooke, a trader, sailing the coast a century before anyone had conceived of the Raspberry Kingdoms. It was a straight-up fight. The warriors on the ship versus a pair of young, curious, yet aggressive Aboleth. They fought to a draw, with one beast dead, along with a third of the crew. Everyone held a grudge. The Valido of the coast were eager to prove they were strong. The sea was the greatest asset to the rebounding nation of humans, dwarves, and elves. They craved its domination. Surprisingly, the first years of the war favored the Valido. The Aboleth were unprepared for the rise of early spellcasters. Priests, druids, and arcane casters struck against the Aboleth. They laid traps, preyed upon their egos, lured them in, and killed them like common beasts. In the fourth year, that all changed. Hordes of Sahajin came up out of the seas, invading the coastal regions. It was an army of thousands that humanity could not oppose. For 20 years, those lands were ruled from the sea, but it couldn't last forever. A far-spanning alliance of land dwellers fought back, and 5 years later, Ludwin and the Raspberry Kingdoms were founded. A hostile stalemate was reached. The kingdoms could not control the sea, and the nautical nightmares could not invade the land. There have been hundreds of incidents over the centuries. Coastal settlements raised, fleets built and destroyed, but it takes a very long time for an aboleth to mature. When one is killed, it's a dreadful loss. Today, there are only 8 fully mature aboleth left. What cost did the Raspberry Kingdoms pay to bring that number down from 9? The loss of 8 strong adventurers, including 2 arcane casters capable of casting 7th level spells, a priest with 8th, and a barbarian with more hit points than the Undeterrable. The loss of ships was an economic hit on par with the U.S. losing 3 carrier groups, or Brazil getting cut off from its offshore oil fields. As cold, omniscient observers, we know that 7% of the population starved because of food shortages directly attributable to the death of 4,000 sailor citizens in the battle. The loss will take decades to recover from, assuming the region doesn't fall victim to war-hungry outside influences. Then again, their nearest neighbors are in at least as bad a shape as they are after the Umbra. Still, one may argue it'll be worth it. If the last of the deep-sea horrors can finally be destroyed, the Raspberry Coast is in an excellent position to trade with distant ports. In stable times, they can produce a great deal of food, supporting significant populations. They are even more secure if their fleets are not doomed to destruction every few decades. The interior of the continent is rich in nearly every mineral a fantasy world has to offer. The kingdoms don't control these lands, but they can import iron and silver to adamantium and mithril at the cheapest rates of any coastal nation on the planet. Yet there is another side to the coin. As we mourn the loss of Sargosa Trivecta, I am reminded of the great warrior's contributions to the nation. The Deep Whisperer saw to the construction of great libraries and beautiful statues throughout the undersea realm. While the landwalkers suffer under the burning sky, the Umbra barely touches us in the deep depths. Such is the order our elders supply. Even the gods of chaos cannot affect us here. Food is plentiful, the birth rate is up. The Murdark thrive in this golden age of waves. The finest artisans, poets, and dreamers are among the Sahajin. We have become the gems of a civilized world, despite the ignorance above. I want to thank you all for stopping by. You are all important to the world around you, and you're important to me. I appreciate you being here. I want to give a special thanks to Pointy Hat and Jenny D for putting this KrakenWeek thing together. It's a great idea, a single theme for all the collaborators that do so much for the role-playing world, whether it be 5e or anything else. I'm just a little fish in that bucket, but I'm glad I could participate. For now, though, it's time to say cheers, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.